Hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking two completely intertwined, truly monumental crises that pretty much define our relationship with the planet. We're talking about land and water degradation. Now, understanding the foundation of our ecosystems is absolutely critical to understanding our global future. We aren't just talking about dirt and puddles here. We're exploring the very baseline of human survival, economic stability, and honestly, our planetary future. So get ready for a fascinating journey through the numbers, the science, and the incredibly smart solutions that are right at our fingertips. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start by mapping Earth's dwindling resources, unpacking land degradation, and examining the global freshwater squeeze. Then, we'll look at India's unique vulnerabilities as a microcosm, tally up the high cost of all this degradation, and finally look at some real blueprints for restoration. So, let's kick things off with Section 1, Earth's dwindling resources, which is really the baseline of scarcity. Before we get into the heavy data, I want you to ask yourself a quick question. When you picture a globe in your mind, it's mostly blue, right? But how much of Earth's water is actually usable for us right now? Just keep a rough percentage in your head. Well, the stark reality is this. Water covers 71% of the Earth's surface, but a massive 96.5% of it is in our oceans, meaning it's salt water. A tiny fraction, around 1%, is saline groundwater and lakes, and that leaves just 2.5% as fresh water. Let that sink in for a second. Out of all the water on this beautiful blue planet, only 2.5% is fresh. This is the ultimate baseline of scarcity we're working from. And that tiny, tiny fraction of water is in constant motion through the hydrologic cycle. Now, we all know evaporation, right? Liquid water turning into vapor from the sun's heat. But check out step 1, transpiration. This is incredible. Plants actually lose massive quantities of water through their leaves, and that contributes about 10% of all the moisture in our atmosphere. And here's a great piece of science jargon for you. Sublimation. That's when solid ice turns directly into vapor, totally skipping the liquid phase. This vapor rises, condenses into clouds, falls back as precipitation, and either runs off into rivers or percolates deep down into the groundwater. It's a perfect closed-loop system, provided we don't disrupt it. Which brings us seamlessly to Section 2, unpacking land degradation, the breakdown of soil. Because water and land, they are intimately connected. To really understand this, we need a shared vocabulary. The United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification defines land degradation as the long-term reduction or loss of biological productivity, ecological integrity, and value to humans. So, in plain English, the crucial point is that this isn't just about land turning into a barren desert. It's about the soil losing its vital nutrients, losing its ability to hold water, and losing its capacity to support plant, animal, and human life. It's literally the breakdown of the terrestrial ecosystem itself. And the scale of human impact here is just vast. When we look at global land use data from the year 2000, we see that while natural forests cover about 46.5%, and extreme environments like mountains and deserts make up nearly 28%, humans are heavily utilizing the rest for crops, grazing, and urban environments. And here is a staggering statistic from the Food and Agriculture Organization. Largely due to unsustainable land management and climatic variations, 1/4 of the world's land area is now classified as severely degraded. 1/4. That is the ground beneath our feet, literally losing its life force. Now, let's parallel that land issue with Section 3, the global freshwater squeeze, a world running dry. Remember that tiny 2.5% of fresh water we talked about earlier? Well, brace yourself for this number, 68.6%. That is the percentage of our global fresh water that is completely locked up in polar ice and glaciers. We literally can't access it. Furthermore, another 30.1% is hidden deep underground as groundwater. That leaves a microscopic 1.3% of the world's freshwater available in lakes, rivers, and streams for us to easily use. This extreme scarcity is leading to a terrifying modern phenomenon known as Day Zero. It's exactly what it sounds like, too. The day a major city's municipal water supply completely dries up, forcing residents to queue in the streets for daily rations. Cape Town, South Africa, famously skirted right on the edge of this terrifying reality. It takes all this massive global data we've been talking about and brings it right down to daily agonizing survival. Let's move on and see how this builds in Section 4, India's unique vulnerabilities, the microcosm. If you want to really understand the extreme pressures of resource degradation, you have to look at India. Just think about this contrast. India is home to about 17% of the global population, yet it possesses only 4% of the world's freshwater resources. It is the absolute definition of a severely water-stressed nation, where demand is estimated to exceed supply by a factor of 2 by the year 2030. These statistics from Niti Aayog's Composite Water Management Index are, frankly, a huge wake-up call. Nearly 600 million people in India are currently facing high to extreme water stress. 70% of the surface water is contaminated. Plus, 21 major Indian cities were projected to hit zero groundwater levels by 2020. And perhaps the most paradoxical, heartbreaking reality of all, the simultaneous occurrence of floods and droughts. Millions of people are affected by devastating monsoon flooding in one region, while another part of the country is completely, hopelessly parched. These environmental realities trigger our next topic in Section 5, the high cost of degradation, the fallout. Because when land and water degrade, it doesn't just hurt nature, it absolutely hammers the global economy. This number, $6.3 trillion with a T, that is the estimated annual economic cost of lost ecosystem goods and services globally due to land degradation. To put that into perspective for you, that was equivalent to 8.3% of the entire global GDP in 2016. We're literally washing and blowing away trillions of dollars in economic value by failing to protect our soil and water. But, the costs aren't just macroeconomic. They're deeply societal and often hidden right in plain sight. Take the virtual water trade. It's a crazy concept when you think about it. When India exports an agricultural product like basmati rice, they are essentially exporting the massive amounts of groundwater used to grow it, over 10 trillion liters in 2014 to 2015 alone. Then there's the very real human cost, disproportionately falling on women who are forced to walk longer and longer distances daily just to find potable water, sacrificing their education and work time. Energy is also at massive risk. 70% of India's thermal power plants, which require vast amounts of fresh water for cooling, will face high water stress by 2030. And of course, as groundwater depletes, our entire global food security is put in direct peril. But hey, this explainer isn't just about the problem. Let's move into Section 6, Blueprints for Restoration, the fix. Let's look at some solutions. So how do we actually address the soil crisis? Well, we have two main approaches here. On one side, we have sustainable land management, or SLM. Think of this as playing defense, keeping current land quality stable through practices like agroforestry, terrace cultivation, and building windbreaks. On the other side, we have land degradation neutrality, or LDN. This is playing offense, actively restoring and managing landscapes that are already degraded so that the overall balance of healthy land remains stable or actually improves. And when it comes to water, some of the very best blueprints for the future are actually found in the past. Across India, decentralized traditional water conservation systems offer incredible models for today. In the arid deserts of Rajasthan, you have halaras, which are these highly sophisticated step wells. High up in the cold deserts of Ladakh, they use zings, small tanks that elegantly capture melting glacier water. In Himachal Pradesh, kools act as vital surface channels. And down in Tamil Nadu, the ancient airy tank systems still hold immense value. These localized, community-driven models prove that highly adapted, decentralized water management is incredibly effective. It's old-school brilliance. On a national scale, India's policy landscape has been rapidly evolving to meet these exact threats. We can clearly see a timeline of momentum here. From the early national water policy in 2002, moving to a revamped policy in 2012 that began treating water much more critically as an economic good. By 2015, the massive PM-KSY initiative was launched, heavily focused on agricultural water efficiency and micro-irrigation. And then in 2018, a model groundwater bill was framed to help states regulate the aggressive over-extraction of water. It really shows a systemic shift toward integrated, thoughtful management. Globally, massive frameworks are mobilizing financial and policy resources too. The UN Convention to Combat Desertification has been the legally binding bedrock since 1994. But we now have highly ambitious goals like the Bond Challenge, which is aiming to restore a massive 350 million hectares of degraded land by 2030. We also have initiatives like REDD+, a UN framework that financially rewards developing nations for mitigating climate change by protecting their forest carbon stocks. In fact, the UN has declared right now, 2021 to 2030, as the decade on ecosystem restoration. So the global community is definitely building the tracks to run this train in the right direction. We'll close today with the words of M.S. Swaminathan, the father of India's Green Revolution, who famously realized that chemical fertilizers and flood irrigation had degraded the land over time. He stated that we now need an evergreen revolution, one that marries cutting-edge technological development with deep, sustainable ecological principles. The tools, the ancient wisdom, and the global frameworks are absolutely all on the table. So the only question left for us is, will we have the focus and the collective will to implement them before day zero becomes a global reality? Thank you so much for exploring these crucial insights with me today.